Well, another very warm welcome back to Classic Dirt Bike TV. And if you're a brand new subscriber to my channel, then welcome aboard. And I do hope you find something in here to interest you with regards looking at these old vintage race bikes. Now, as you know, I've been running about the countryside, filming more of those classic racers for you to take a look at here on my channel. And coming up in the next weeks and months, we will be taking a look at some very interesting old race bikes. So if you've not already done so, then I do hope you will consider subscribing to my channel in order that you don't miss out on any of those forthcoming machines. Okay, our next video we're going to take a look at Archie Baird's hybrid CZ bike. Now this is about as far away as you could get from an original bike, but nonetheless it's certainly worth a good look here on my Classic Dirt Bike TV channel. So without any further delay, let's just jump straight into the video. Now, this particular CZ Twinshocker is a full hybrid bike with all manner of upgrades and bespoke trick parts fitted onto it. And as I said, this is about as far from an original bike as it gets. Although, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the bike here. It's just that there are so many parts available for these old CZ machines nowadays, and Archie has certainly utilised most of them on this machine and made this particular CZ into a cracking looking twin-shock racer. And of course, that's another reason that make these Czechoslovakian bikes a very good starter machine if you want to try your hand at vintage racing, because when it comes to the original CZ bikes, there's a plentiful supply of them out there, and you can get yourself up and running and on the track quite quickly if you can find one at the right price. Now, starting with the bike's frame, which is not an original CZ factory chassis, but a bespoke frame designed and built by talented young Irishman Harry Stitt. Now, Harry is well known for his frame building skills, and he designs his own frames for vintage dirt bikes in his well equipped workshop, and these featured bronze welded frames were specifically built to suit the CZ motor and of course all of its attachments. But the quality of workmanship is just amazing on these chassis, which is why Harry is in such high demand from the dirt bike racing community. Now, of course, when the frames are finished, it's not painted or chrome plated because it would actually be such a shame to hide that excellent workmanship of Harry Stitt. Now, this CZ two-stroke motor was built by Norrie Pattie, who is regarded as your go-to guy when it comes to these Czechoslovakian engines. And Norrie has many years of experience stripping, rebuilding and upgrading these CZ motors. Now, as you can see, this engine has undergone the gear shifter modification, whereby this new linkage system replaces the older long throw shifters that were fitted to these engines back in the day. And by changing to this new configuration, it makes gear shifting very slick and smooth, and every bit as good, if not better, than any Japanese equivalent bike. Now, these quite substantial replacement footrests are another quality product from frame builder Harry Stitt, and Harry calls these his bear claws. But again, these are an excellent upgrade to the narrow, softer pegs that CZ would have fitted to their bikes from the factory, and of course these will give the rider much more support to his feet than the older original narrow ones. Now, as you can see, Archie's motor again has undergone the now very popular modification of removing fins from the motor's barrel. Now, there are various reasons bandied about as to why this is done, although my personal take on the idea is it's just simply to reduce the weight and to stop mud from clogging up the fins when the bike's racing on a muddy track, which of course would then lead to the motor overheating. But naturally, don't listen to a word that I say, just make your own mind up. Now more Norrie Pattie 3L race development upgrades with this custom made primary drive sprocket cover. And also this alloy airbox was another part that was custom made to fit the Harry Stitt chassis, and this of course was one of the many alloy parts that were bolted on to this very unique Twinshock racer. Now, as you'd expect, Archie was never going to use the original CZ Jikov carburetor on his new bike, as these had quite a bad reputation for flooding and other issues, so naturally Archie's opted for this Japanese Mikuni, which of course is much more reliable and highly tunable. Now, when it came to the bike's front forks, the only information I was given at the time was that they were certainly modified, but the intricate details of their parts and construction appears to be a very closely guarded secret, and I didn't seem to have the necessary clearance to be supplied with the gory details. But it's still good to see that Archie's still using the original CZ hubs on the front and rear of his new bike. Now, on the rear of the bike there's a very good pair of Falcon rear shocks fitted, and these of course are top quality, and I can certainly vouch for these type of shocks, as I've used these myself when I raced my old Myco many years ago, but I've always found them to be very good value for money, and of course they're perfect for fitting to these old types of Twinshock racers. Now, one of the more outstanding features on this bike is this nicely sculpted alloy fuel tank, and Archie told me that this tank and both the alloy side panels fitted on the bike were built by Alan Harrow. But for me, this type of fuel tank is much nicer than any plastic replacement that you could buy, and you certainly can't beat an old dirt bike that's put together with good old-fashioned steel and alloy. And this Alan Harrow built gas tank is certainly a work of art in its own right. Now, when it came to the bike's seat for Archie's new machine, an original CZ seat base and foam was used, and this colour coordinated CZ cover was then added just to finish it off. But it certainly looks like it has plenty padding to help soak up some of those big bumps that a rider might encounter on a bumpy racetrack. Now, once more, an upgraded exhaust expansion chamber, and this quality pipe is a modified pipe that came straight from Czechoslovakia. But as you'd expect, the Czechs do supply many bits and pieces for these old CZ racers, and there's quite a good market for spares and modified parts for these bikes here in the UK, and it's certainly visible when you see bikes like this one of Archie's fitted with all manner of new parts when they turn up at vintage race events. Now, more Czechoslovakian parts on Archie's machine with these billet CNC machined top and bottom fork yokes, but these again are top quality once again, and certainly a big improvement over the CZ originals. And Archie's also fitted these alloy bar risers and a modern set of Renthal handlebars just to complement the engineering of those very nice triple clamps. But this is certainly a well put together motorcycle, and it's fitted with the best of parts available. And although the bike's not an original example of one of these old CZ racers, it just goes to show what you can do to improve on an older design. But as you can see, a Swedish made Gunnar Gasser throttle just to try and control the horses from that two-stroke CZ motor. But the combination of that quality Harry Stitt frame and of course the Norrie Pattie motor and of course all the other alloy and upgraded parts on this bike just combine to make this a very special and unique machine. Now, although I said that this is quite a unique machine, I think there is still another one of these Harry Stitt CZ specials going around. I think that belongs to John Fleming, who I think has made his own improvements to his particular bike, which are slightly different to this Archie Baird machine. Now, some of the other parts on this bike, like the front and rear mudguards, are actually taken from a Yamaha motocrosser. But these highly modified dirt bikes maybe not be everybody's cup of coffee, but then again, old original bikes are becoming more scarce as the years roll by, and in time you'll eventually find it very hard to see these types of vintage dirt bikes taking to the track. But then again, the good thing is that Archie's not using this as a show bike for people just to look at. He does race it regularly, and he's pretty damn quick on it as well when he takes to the racetrack. Although there's certainly no escaping the fact that this is still a lovely looking Twinshock racer, even with the many modified parts that's fitted onto it. And who knows, maybe in the years to follow we may see a brand new race class emerging for these unique modified motocrossers. Well, I do hope you enjoyed that quite brief look around Archie Baird's hybrid CZ bike. Not, of course, an original bike, but nonetheless a very nice trick Twinshock racer, that's for sure, and certainly something different here on my Classic Dirt Bike TV channel. Okay, coming up in my next video, we're going back to the Terry Pickering Classic Dirt Bike collection. Now, in this next video, we're going back to the days of my youth, back to 1969, and we're going to take a look at this lovely little 50cc Junior Cross Garelli that Terry fully restored. Now, this is a lovely looking bike, and I'm sure some of my older YouTube viewers can relate to this little racer from back in the day. So we're going to take a look at that bike of Terry's in my next video posting. But of course, until then, please continue to subscribe to my channel until we all get together once more to talk about more vintage iron right here on your #1 Classic Dirt Bike TV channel.